Welcome to the CompTIA A+ Prepcast presented by baremetalcyber.com. Active Directory is the central identity and access management system used in most Windows enterprise environments. It allows administrators to manage users, devices, permissions, and policies from a centralized platform. Active Directory, often called AD, is not used in standalone home systems. Instead, it is implemented on a Windows server and functions in environments that are part of a domain. Through Active Directory, organizations can enforce security requirements, distribute software, manage access to network resources, and structure their systems in a logical and scalable way. Domain controllers are the servers responsible for running Active Directory. These systems handle login authentication, directory queries, and policy application. Every time a user logs in, the domain controller checks the credentials, applies the necessary rules, and grants access to the appropriate resources. Multiple domain controllers are typically deployed to ensure redundancy. If one domain controller goes offline, others continue to provide access and maintain availability. These controllers constantly replicate changes to each other to keep the database consistent across the network. Within Active Directory, two of the most common object types are user accounts and group accounts. A user object represents an individual with login credentials, a password policy, and associated settings. Group objects are collections of users that share the same level of access or responsibility. Administrators often assign permissions to groups rather than individual users. This simplifies security and makes it easier to audit and manage access control. When a user is added to a group, they inherit all the group's permissions automatically. Organizational units, often abbreviated as OUS, are containers used to organize the various user, group, and computer objects within Active Directory. They serve two main purposes. First, they reflect the business structure, such as departments or geographic locations, which makes the environment easier to manage. Second, they are used to delegate control and apply group policy. For example, you might have separate OUS for the finance department, the IT team, and student lab machines, each with their own unique settings and administrators. Group Policy Objects, or GPOs, are one of the most powerful features in Active Directory. A GPO is a collection of settings that can be applied to users or computers within an OU. These settings control everything from password policies and login restrictions to desktop backgrounds, network drive mappings, and software deployment. Group policy enables administrators to enforce rules across large groups of systems automatically. The Group Policy Management Console, or GPMC, is the tool used to create, edit, and link these policies. Group policy objects can be used for a wide range of configurations. For example, a GPO can be used to disable the control panel on public-facing kiosks, redirect user folders such as documents to a shared network location, or automatically lock screens after a period of inactivity. Other GPOs might map shared printers, install software during login, or block access to USB storage devices. With group policy, organizations can maintain consistent configurations and reduce the time spent on manual tasks. When multiple GPOs apply to a user or computer, the system follows a specific order. Policies are applied in this sequence: local settings first, then site-level GPOs, followed by domain-level GPOs, and finally organizational unit-level GPOs. This is known as the LSD-OU order. If multiple GPOs conflict, the setting from the closest level, usually the OU, takes precedence. Administrators can also block inheritance to prevent higher-level GPOs from applying or enforce a GPO, so it overrides lower-level ones. Login scripts are another tool used to automate configuration at the time of user login. A login script might map a network drive, launch a specific application, or set an environment variable. These scripts can be assigned directly to a user object or distributed through a GPO. They are often written in Batch, PowerShell, or Visual Basic Script. Login scripts help ensure users have access to the right resources as soon as they sign in and provide a fallback when group policy settings are insufficient. Active Directory is tightly integrated with the Domain Name System, or DNS. This integration allows clients to locate domain controllers, replicate data between sites, and authenticate users. Active Directory uses special service records called SRV records to advertise its presence on the network. If DNS is not functioning properly, clients will not be able to join the domain or authenticate with the controllers. DNS misconfiguration is a common source of domain login failures and should always be verified during troubleshooting. For more cyber-related content and books, please check out cyberauthor.me. Also, there are other prepcasts on cybersecurity and more at baremetalcyber.com. Joining a computer to a domain is one of the first steps in integrating it into an Active Directory environment. The technician must have administrative credentials for the domain, and the computer must have access to the domain controller through DNS. Once joined, the system automatically creates a computer object in Active Directory, allowing it to receive group policy updates, be managed centrally, and authenticate users using domain credentials. Domain-joined systems benefit from uniform security and configuration management, which reduces administrative overhead. Account lockout and password policies are applied through group policy to control login behavior and ensure security standards. These policies define how complex passwords must be, how often they must be changed, and how many failed login attempts will trigger a lockout. For example, an organization may require a 12-character password that includes numbers and special characters, and that expires every 90 days. Enforcing these rules through Active Directory helps organizations meet regulatory compliance and reduces the risk of credential-based attacks. Domain controllers replicate data between each other to ensure that all systems have consistent Active Directory information. This includes changes to user accounts, group memberships, policy updates, and login events. Replication usually happens automatically on a schedule but can also be triggered manually. If replication fails, users may experience issues such as being unable to log in, seeing outdated group memberships, or applying old policy settings. Monitoring and maintaining replication health is a critical administrative task in any multi-controller environment. Several tools are used to manage Active Directory. Active Directory Users and Computers, or ADUC, is the primary graphical interface for creating and modifying users, groups, and OUS. The Group Policy Management Console is used to create and link group policy objects. For more advanced tasks, automation, or bulk changes, administrators turn to PowerShell. PowerShell commands allow administrators to script repetitive actions like resetting passwords, disabling accounts, or generating user reports with precision and speed. Here is a real-world example. A technician receives a ticket requesting that a user be granted access to a department-shared folder. Instead of assigning the permission directly, the technician adds the user to a security group that already has access to the folder. That group is tied to a group policy setting that maps the network drive automatically. After the user logs off and back on, the shared drive appears. This illustrates the power of group-based access control for both simplicity and scalability. There are two main types of groups in Active Directory: security groups and distribution groups. Security groups are used to assign permissions to files, folders, printers, and systems. They control who can read, write, or modify resources. Distribution groups, on the other hand, are used only for email distribution lists. They cannot be used to assign permissions. Understanding this distinction helps prevent configuration mistakes, such as assuming a distribution group can be used to secure a folder. User profile paths and roaming profiles are used in domain environments to give users a consistent experience across different machines. A roaming profile stores a user's desktop settings, application configurations, and documents on a network share. When the user logs in on another machine, that profile is downloaded. While convenient, Roaming profiles can cause delays or corruption if the profile grows too large or is not synced correctly. Proper quotas and cleanup routines help maintain stability in roaming profile setups. Folder redirection is often used alongside or instead of roaming profiles. It moves common user folders such as documents, desktop, and pictures to a central file server. This allows for easier backup, more consistent access, and protection against local device failure. Folder redirection is configured through group policy and reduces the size of the roaming profile. It is an effective strategy for organizations that require user data to be preserved across machines without relying on local storage. Active Directory trust relationships allow two domains to recognize each other's users and permissions. This setup is useful in large organizations with multiple domains, or in cases where two companies have merged and need to share access. Trusts can be one-way or two-way, and may be restricted to specific groups or resources. Managing trust relationships requires careful planning and is handled by senior administrators, but technicians should understand the concept and recognize trust-related errors in domain environments. To summarize, Active Directory is the backbone of centralized management in Windows enterprise networks. It organizes users, devices, and resources into a scalable structure, enforces security and configuration through group policy, and integrates with DNS and login systems. Technicians working in business environments must understand how domains work, how to join systems, how to apply policies, and how to troubleshoot access and replication issues. Mastery of these topics is essential not just for the exam, but for real-world IT support roles in any corporate setting. Thank you for listening. Please visit baremetalcyber.com for more cybersecurity information, podcasts, books, and more.